There is a version of you buried beneath everything you pretend to be. And it's not weaker. It's not broken. It's undeniable. The reason life hurts isn't because of who you are. It's because of how much of you you've rejected just to survive. You didn't mean to become someone else. You just learned that silence was safer than honesty. That smiling was easier than explaining. That shrinking took less energy than constantly defending your soul. But every time you abandon a piece of yourself for the sake of approval, you create a wound. And those wounds don't vanish. They wait. They wait in your shadow. The shadow is not your enemy. It is everything you exiled in order to be accepted. Your rage, your hunger, your jealousy, your intensity, your divine, untamed depth, and the pain you feel, that ache, that emptiness, it's not a sign something is wrong with you. It's a sign that your shadow is screaming to be heard. Because when you finally stop running from it, when you turn inward and listen, life doesn't hurt the same way. It transforms. You think the darkness inside you is the threat, but the real danger is the self-denial. The mask you glued to your face so tightly, you forgot where it ends and you begin. The performance you put on so often, it became the prison. But no mask, no matter how convincing, can ever silence the truth forever. Your shadow always finds a way to speak. In self-sabotage. In anger you don't understand. In burnout you blame on others. In addictions you call habits. In relationships that implode under the weight of your suppressed needs, the world told you to be light, to be kind, to be peaceful. But peace is not pretending. Peace is integration. Peace is becoming whole. Peace is saying, I refuse to amputate parts of my soul just to make you comfortable. You were not meant to live in fragments. You were meant to become indivisible. So let's start here. Syphoria, the sacred madness of self-reclamation. You don't awaken by avoiding your shadow. You awaken by dancing with it, by inviting it into the room, by saying, I see you. You're part of me, and I'm done pretending you don't exist. Syphoria isn't a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. It's what happens when the mind refuses to keep splitting itself in half. When the soul demands authenticity over acceptance, when your inner fire becomes too bright to be boxed in. This is not chaos. This is healing in its rawest form, because healing isn't soft. It's disruptive. It will tear down every belief that told you to play small. It will burn the identity you built for others. And from the ashes, your real self rises, not polished, not perfect, but powerful. Mindset is not about positivity. It's about perception. You've been trained to think darkness is bad, but the truth is darkness is where the truth lives. Your mindset determines whether you see your shadow as a curse or a compass, whether you numb your pain or decode it. Every symptom in your life is a message. Every reaction is a mirror. Every breakdown is a rebellion of the soul. If your mindset isn't built to listen inward, you will spend your whole life chasing outward validation. But the shadow doesn't care about your followers, or your resume, or your costume. It wants you raw. It wants you real. It wants you home. So, shift your lens. Stop labeling parts of you as too much. They are exactly what you need to rise. Belief is what builds or breaks the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind. Most people only believe in the version of themselves they can control. The version that gets applause. The version that fits the mold. But what if your power is in the parts that don't fit? What if your higher self is waiting in the very thing you've disowned. Your belief system must be strong enough to contain your full humanity. Not just your light, but your hunger, your shadows, your contradictions. Because if you only believe in your goodness, you'll panic every time your darkness shows. But when you believe in your wholeness, you stop being at war with yourself, and when the war inside ends, clarity begins. Clarity isn't found in silence. It's found in confrontation. You want to know who you are? Then look at what you're afraid to feel. Clarity isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to sit with it without losing yourself. To say, I see the monster, and I'm no longer running. Because the monster, it's not something you need to slay. It's the part of you that was abandoned and twisted by silence. It became loud because you refused to listen. It became terrifying because you locked it in the basement of your psyche and threw away the key. But you can't bury your truth and expect peace. You can't reject your rage and expect boundaries. You can't suppress your sadness and expect intimacy. Clarity isn't always pretty, but it's liberating. Because once you know what's been haunting you, you can stop running and start reclaiming. Vision is not just what you want to do. It's who you're becoming. Your shadow isn't here to destroy your dream. It's here to sharpen it, to strip away illusions, to make sure what you build is real, not just a performance of success. The false vision can trap you in golden cages, the kind that look perfect on the outside, but rot you from within. But when you integrate your shadow, you see clearly. You no longer chase to escape. You create to express. You no longer build to be seen. You build because it's who you are. That's when vision becomes magnetic. That's when your work becomes a mirror for others. Because people don't follow perfection. They follow authenticity. They follow someone who faced their shadow and came back whole. Purpose does not live in your light. It lives in your wound. The most powerful people in the world didn't run from their shadow. They used it, turned it into poetry, turned it into art, turned it into a mission. You want to find your purpose? Look at what broke you. Then ask, how do I make sure this never breaks someone else the same way? Purpose is forged in fire. It comes when you realize your shadow is not your shame. It's your story. And that story, told honestly, has the power to heal not just you, but everyone who hears it. Stop waiting to be perfect before you show up. You were never meant to be spotless. You were meant to be true. Because when you start listening to your shadow, life doesn't just stop hurting. It starts guiding. Discipline is not what keeps you in line. It's what liberates your real self from the cage of chaos. Everyone wants freedom, but very few are willing to pay the price for it. And the price is discipline, not external, not imposed by others, but internal, sacred, and chosen. Your shadow does not obey the false order of society. It obeys rhythm. It obeys devotion. It obeys truth. When you ignore it, it rebels. But when you honor it with structure, it becomes your most loyal ally. Because the parts of you that feel wild, that feel impulsive, that feel too much, they are not problems. They are power with nowhere to go. Discipline is the architecture that holds that power. Without it, your genius floods the wrong places. In addictions, in anger, in aimlessness. With it, that same genius builds kingdoms. It's not about controlling your shadow. It's about channeling it into your work, into your craft, into the life only you can build. Your discipline becomes the altar where your shadow comes to serve, not destroy. Action is the cure for the illusion of powerlessness. Your mind will try to convince you to wait until it's safe, until you understand everything, until the fear is gone. But your shadow doesn't wait for safety. It waits for courage. And courage means moving with a fear, stepping forward even when your voice shakes, even when your past screams you're not ready. Even when the inner critic rises like a storm, the shadow doesn't need you to be fearless. It needs you to be willing to act without the guarantee of approval, willing to build without applause, willing to speak without being understood. Because action isn't just about changing your life. It's about proving to the parts of you that were told to stay silent that they matter. Every step you take while carrying your shadow is a declaration. I am no longer afraid of all of me. And from that place, you become unbreakable. Gratitude becomes real when you can look at your shadow and say, thank you, not out of denial, not out of toxic positivity, but out of truth, because your pain held wisdom, your shame held direction. Your failures were lessons written in the language of the unconscious. You don't have to love the trauma, but you can love who it forged you into. You don't have to justify the hurt, but you can reclaim the fire it lit inside you. Gratitude is not saying, I'm fine. It's saying, I made it through. And I carry gold no one can steal. It turns your shadow from a ghost into a guide, from a wound into a weapon, from a secret into a source of strength. This kind of gratitude is not quiet. It is revolutionary. It's the kind that shifts your posture, your voice, your destiny. Because once you are grateful for the worst parts of your story, you've taken back the pen. And no one writes your future except you. Adaptability is what happens when you realize your identity is not fixed. It is fluid. It is a canvas. And your shadow holds the colors you've been afraid to paint with. You are not meant to stay the same. You are meant to evolve beyond recognition. Every time you cling to who you used to be, you betray who you're becoming. Your shadow will challenge your old image. It will push against the ego you created to feel safe. But safety is not the same as freedom. Adaptability is not weakness. It is the highest form of intelligence. It means you can feel the tectonic shifts within you, and instead of resisting, you ride them. It means you no longer fear change, because you know change is how the soul breathes. When you integrate your shadow, you become the storm, not the leaf caught in it. You become the shape-shifter, rooted in self, yet unbound by form. Resilience is not about bouncing back. It's about returning stronger from what was meant to destroy you. You don't develop resilience by ignoring your shadow. You build it by facing it, touching the raw edge of your humanity, and realizing you're still here. You still rise, still breathe, still walk forward with eyes wide open. Your shadow carries your history. Your resilience writes your future. Every time you refuse to betray yourself to fit in, you grow stronger. Every time you speak the truth no one wants to hear, you become braver. Every time you look your shame in the eye and say, you don't own me anymore, you reclaim another piece of your soul. Resilience is not a trait. It is a practice, a choice, a daily devotion to wholeness over perfection. And when the world sees a whole human walking freely, it can't help but listen. Learning does not stop. Once you awaken your shadow, that's when it truly begins. The unconscious isn't a box to unpack once. It's a universe to explore endlessly. When you become a student of your own darkness, you never run out of wisdom. You begin to notice the patterns, the triggers, the illusions that once tricked you, and now you see them coming. Now you meet them with awareness. Now you no longer confuse your past pain for your present truth. Learning is not just collecting information. It's watching how your shadow morphs, how it tests you, how it teaches you. The greatest minds in history weren't just thinkers. They were observers of their own transformation. They listened to the whispers beneath their own noise, and they followed them into brilliance. You can too, but only if you stay humble, only if you keep listening, only if you understand. The more you know, the more of your shadow you must embrace, because knowledge without self-awareness becomes arrogance. But knowledge with shadow integration, that becomes wisdom. And now, liberation. Not the kind they sell you, not the fake freedom of saying the right things, looking the right way, performing the right version of success. I'm talking about soul freedom, the kind that terrifies people still hiding from their own truth, the kind that doesn't just change your life, it changes your presence. When you start listening to your shadow, you become impossible to manipulate, because they can't shame you with parts of you that you've already accepted. They can't control you with rejection. When you've stopped rejecting yourself, the moment you integrate your darkness, you stop needing to be rescued. You stop waiting to be chosen. You stop hoping someone else will come make sense of the war inside you. You realize you are the rescuer. You are the architect. You are the one you were waiting for. The shadow was never the villain. It was the unspoken story, the unhealed gift, the fire waiting to be used for something holy. And when you stop burying it, when you sit with it, listen to it, and honor it, it doesn't fight you anymore. It joins you. It fuels your words. It sharpens your decisions. It fortifies your boundaries. It amplifies your creativity. Suddenly, you don't just survive. You build. You command. You reshape your world from the inside out. Because no one can gaslight a person who has made peace with their shadow. No one can fracture a person who is no longer divided within. No one can stop a person who has found wholeness and dares to live from it. So here you are, standing at the edge of who you've been and everything you were meant to be. The mask is melting. The lie is dying. The shadow is no longer knocking. It's standing in front of you, eyes full of grief, power, and potential. And it's asking one question. Will you let me in? Will you stop making me the enemy? Will you stop exiling the parts of you that were never broken, just unwelcomed? Will you finally become whole? Even if it means being misunderstood, feared, different? Because wholeness isn't comfortable, but it is freedom. It is the unshakable strength that comes from no longer hiding, from no longer needing a mask to feel worthy. You were not made to live as half a self. You were not born to play the polished role of who they wanted you to be. You were designed to burn with all of you, the light and the dark, the sacred and the scar, the dreamer and the destroyer. So listen, really listen to the part of you that's been screaming through silence, to the pains that's been waiting to become power, to the shadow that's been guarding your genius like a lion, not because it hated you, but because it loved you too much to be ignored. Let the mask go. Let the war end. Let the shadow speak. And watch as life finally stops hurting. Not because it becomes easy, but because you become whole. Because now you walk with everything you are. And when you do that, you are not just alive, you are awake. And there is nothing more terrifying and nothing more beautiful than a human being who has learned to walk with their shadow. Just because they sit next to you doesn't mean they stand for you. Just because they cheer for you in public doesn't mean they pray for you in private. And just because they smile when you win doesn't mean they aren't secretly relieved when you lose. Not everyone near you is with you. This is a truth most people are too afraid to face, because it requires letting go of illusions that feel like family, friends that feel like safety, connections that feel like home, but only because you forgot what home is supposed to feel like. You've confused proximity with loyalty. But closeness means nothing if the energy doesn't match. Some people are near you for the light, but they curse the fire that made it. They like the glow you bring until it outshines their shadow. They stay close, not because they believe in you, but because they are addicted to access. And the moment you set a boundary, the moment you say no, the moment you ask for reciprocity, watch how quickly love turns into distance. Watch how silence replaces celebration. And that's where the real work begins. You weren't wrong for trusting them. You were just hoping they'd evolve with you. But some people are only compatible with a version of you that doesn't know who you are yet. Because when you wake up, you stop needing permission to grow. And growth always comes with a grieving. You grieve the old self. You grieve the role you played. You grieve the illusion that proximity meant partnership. But here's the thing. Growth is not abandonment. Growth reveals who already abandoned you the moment you stop being convenient. They weren't loyal. They were comfortable. And now that you've chosen truth over tradition, alignment over attachment, integrity over image, you're no longer the version of you they could predict or control. And that threatens them, because people who haven't met themselves will always be intimidated by someone who finally has. This is where cyphoria begins. That sacred discomfort when the masks start falling, and what's left is you, unapologetic, clear, steady, alone. At first it feels like isolation, but soon you realize it's freedom. Because now, for the first time, you can hear your own voice without the interference of other people's expectations. You no longer shrink to fit the table. You build your own table and invite only those who bring soul, not noise. Truth, not flattery. Presence, not performance. It's lonely at first, but it's honest. And honesty will always heal what proximity only numbed. You start questioning everything. And that's how the mindset shifts. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And you start asking, why did I keep allowing it? Because the most powerful shift in mindset doesn't come when others change. It comes when you stop needing them to. You become dangerous the day you realize you can outgrow people and still love them, but from a distance. You no longer explain your elevation. You embody it. You no longer negotiate your boundaries. You enforce them with softness, with certainty, with sovereignty. That's mindset. Not rigid, not cold, but clear. You're no longer available to relationships that only survive on the version of you that was too scared to walk away. And when the mindset shifts, so do your beliefs. You stop believing loyalty is measured by years. You stop believing you owe people your time just because they once showed up. You stop believing you have to dim just because they never chose to shine. Belief rewrites your internal narrative. It says, I don't have to stay small to be loved. I don't have to explain why I left. And I sure as hell don't have to apologize for choosing peace over performance. And people won't understand They're not supposed to, because your beliefs no longer orbit their comfort. Your loyalty isn't to who they were. It's to who you're becoming. And who you're becoming doesn't sit in rooms that dishonor your light just because it's familiar. And with new beliefs comes a terrifying gift. Clarity. You start seeing who's really with you, who only stayed for the benefits, who celebrated you as long as you stayed behind them, who loved your wounds but resents your healing. You see the takers, the emotional freeloaders, the silent critics, the ones who smiled with their mouths and stabbed with their absence. And you don't hate them. You thank them, because clarity doesn't come to punish. It comes to purify. It removes the noise. It reveals the soul contracts that have expired. It shows you what can't come with you to the next level. Clarity is painful, but it's not cruelty. It's the highest form of mercy, because once you see clearly, you can finally stop pouring into what was never built to hold you. That's when vision is born. Not a dream, not a wish, not a someday fantasy, a knowing, a divine certainty, a fire that says, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and no one who drains me is allowed to walk with me anymore. Vision doesn't ask for approval. It doesn't beg to be understood. It moves, it builds, it protects its energy at all costs. Vision clears the fog. It says no to distraction. It says yes to alignment. It sees through flattery. It recognizes manipulation even when it's dressed in love. And most importantly, it sees you, not the version of you they tolerated, but the one you were destined to be before you learned to shrink. Good, because now that you see where you're going, you must protect why you're going. That's purpose. It's not a job title, not a passion project, not a mission statement. Purpose is the gravity beneath your soul. It's the fire that won't let you stay asleep anymore. It's the unshakable whisper that keeps rising every time you try to settle. You don't find purpose. You remember it. It's what made your heart race before the world taught you to be efficient. It's what made you feel alive before success became a costume. It's what remains when everything external is stripped away. And once you remember, everything misaligned becomes intolerable. You no longer accept energy that feels off. You no longer say yes to people who drain you. You no longer shrink to be understood. Because your purpose is sacred. And sacred things do not negotiate with casual energy. Not everyone near you is with you, because your purpose terrifies those still avoiding their own. And you must be okay with that. Let them go. Let them misunderstand. Let them gossip in circles you've outgrown. Because the path you're walking now, it requires a different version of you. One that's not afraid to be misunderstood in the name of truth. To live from that place, you need discipline. The kind that doesn't depend on mood. The kind that doesn't wait for the right energy. The kind that moves, because the soul said move. Discipline is your spiritual spine. It holds you upright when life tries to bend you back into a shape that no longer fits. It's in the small things. Waking up early when no one's watching. Walking away from drama when no one else will. Protecting your mind like it's the altar of your entire existence. Because it is. Discipline is how purpose survives the war between distraction and devotion. And that war never ends. You just get stronger. You stop waiting for the environment to align. You become the alignment. You stop asking the world to respect your path. You walk it so powerfully, so precisely, that they can't help but move out of the way. Then comes action. the daily proof that you're no longer just talking about it. You move, not out of urgency, but out of alignment. You speak, not to impress, but to declare. You make decisions that match your destiny, even if they cost you comfort, even if they shake the ground beneath everything familiar. Because action is the great separator. It's where the inspired are revealed as builders, where the dreamers either rise or rot. You don't owe the world your plans. You owe the vision your execution. Your life is not an idea. It's a creation. And what you allow, what you nurture, what you build will tell the truth about who you really are. Let it be undeniable. And in the doing, in the building, in the becoming, you will feel everything. Fear, grief, loneliness, elation, betrayal, pride, longing. Let it all come. Let it all flow. But don't let it lead. That's emotional mastery, not suppression. Integration. It's not pretending to be okay. It's choosing what to do even when you're not. It's not pushing emotions away. It's holding them with love, but not handing them the keys to your destiny. You are allowed to feel, but you are not allowed to quit because of it. You are not allowed to believe every feeling is fact. You are not allowed to shrink because a storm passed through your chest. You are not your wounds. You are the one who walks through them and still moves forward. And when the past gets brutal, because it will, that's where resilience is revealed. Not the fake version. Not Instagram resilience. Not stay strong nonsense. I'm talking about real resilience. The kind that shakes but doesn't shatter. The kind that cries, then rises. The kind that doesn't pretend but persists. It's built in silence, in solitude, in the moments you want to give up, but choose presence instead. Resilience says, this hurts, but I'm still aligned. This is heavy, but I'm still here. This didn't go how I wanted, but I didn't come this far to repeat old patterns. Resilience is remembering who you are in the face of what tries to make you forget. It's when you don't let a single season define you, when you rise from the betrayal without bitterness, when you learn from the failure without folding, and finally, you reach the truth you were never told. You were never alone. You were always becoming. The universe never abandoned you. It was carving you, shaping you, refining you into someone who could no longer be fooled by proximity, by noise, by applause, by fake friends in close places. Because now you know not everyone near you is with you. And that's okay. Because not everyone can walk with someone who has decided to live in truth. Not everyone can love someone who refuses to perform for it. Not everyone can follow someone who no longer follows the crowd. You are no longer available to be half loved, half seen, half heard. You are no longer accessible to energy that asks you to shrink, to stay. And that is the beginning of everything. You don't need everyone. You just need you, fully chosen, fully seen, fully free.